Welcome to Going Deeper into Dev Marketing by developer Mark Appare, a show where we go beyond surface level, advise, and focus on actionable insights that dev tool founders and marketers can use to grow today. We'll do long interviews with top dev tool marketers, solo deep dives with yours truly, sprinkled with real life examples and teardowns. This will be fun. Oh, and yes, this was AI generated, but the rest of the show is very personal. Now, on to the show.
Super excited about it. Flo and me, we know each other from marketing to dev community. That's where we met. Flo has been an incredible member at first, and then he joined as one of the admins and basically helped it grew to what it is now. We couldn't have done it without Flo. The community wouldn't be so awesome and so lovely for everyone and so valuable and so inclusive and so full of insights and full of discussions. So first off, Flo, thank you so much. That's job well done for sure. But I want to talk about, sort of get more of your story, because that's just a sliver of it. Obviously, you've been in DevTools for many years. You worked at Specify, Clerk, Mintflify, so all the cool names. You helped many folks do product hunt launches, including me. We did the try on the developer marketing examples for Markuper, which was I'd say it was a success. It didn't get to top one, but it also wasn't a product, so it's also a trickier thing to do in places like that.
What
but and it was stressful. I remember I was stressed because it wasn't getting in there at the beginning, right? But then it got there. So yeah, thanks a lot for this one. And Flo, would you like to maybe share a few words about yourself, just for folks to get to know you a little bit better?
Sure. So, what an intro! I mean, thank you so much. This marketing to dev community definitely is probably the most engaging community in this specific niche of developer marketing. And Ronak and you are the founders also. So you have credits as well. And fantastic community. Beyond. I'm super humbled to be part of it. And
so for everyone who doesn't know, just go in there, marketing2.dev. It's a Slack channel. We look through every person who wants to get in, just to make sure that it stays developer, dev tool focused, dev marketing focused. And you can definitely talk there to Flo, to me, to tout. Now was there, what was 2,300, I think, people now, something like that in the community.
My bet is that that's it. And my bet is that in a few months we'll probably be the not just the most engaging, but also the largest community in that topic. So I'm pretty excited.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, fingers crossed.
And so a little about my story. So I have 10 years 10 years of experience in the B2B SaaS startup world, especially with technical products. I have a technical background and worked my entire career with the technical audiences, so developers, engineers, PhDs, you name it. And more specifically on product hunt, I'm an early adopter, and so I joined Product Hunt about 10 years ago. So it was in July 2014. First, I was just a regular visitor, going there from time to time, and I actually did my very first Product Hunt launch early 2022 when I joined Specify, a design API company. And this was a lot of fun. I absolutely love that. And I found also it very, very interesting from a business perspective. And so from there, I just kept launching and continued to advocate for Product Hunt, to advocate for launching there, because I found it's a great place to launch. And and DevTools in particular.
So how's that first launch, like the first one you did 2022, yeah, do you remember that? Can you go back to
Oh
that story? What
yeah,
happened there?
big time. Yeah, we spent so much time working on this launch. We spent like 6 weeks probably to prep that launch. We wanted Procton as a place to launch Specify in public. So we went from beta to public, and so we had to figure out everything from the marketing side, from the messaging, the pricing, making sure that the onboarding was optimized and so on. So that was a ton of work from a product and marketing perspective. And ultimately that launch day was amazing from both perspectives. From a business perspective, because we had a ton of new users, fantastic flagships signing up to the product. We had at that time we had 10,000 people who were in the waiting list and were super excited about the product, and people embraced it on socials.
Nice.
And on the other hand, also very exciting in terms of personal and team experience, because we were all together in the same war room, chatting about how can we talk a lot more about Specify that day, that specific day. And the fun story also about this launch was the fact that it was launch day for us. We were super excited about that. And the fun fact is that we launched the day Russia attacked Ukraine. And so I learned what a classic launch day is. You first you think that you handle every different aspects of your launch. You make sure that everything is perfectly aligned, and just like that, you realize that actually you don't handle. You can't anticipate everything during your launch day. And despite that, we still launched. We found some opportunities to create some parallels with the news, and still we had a stellar launch with multiples.
So two things to touch on when that you mentioned, I think they're important. One, you mentioned that it's preparation of the site on the promotion side, but also when people do get to your site, you want to provide a great experience, right? I see people, whether that product hunt or Hacker News or however you want to launch or whatever you do, basically one thing is getting people into that, to your site, to your product. The second one is giving them that great experience. And if the experience is horrible, then it may actually be counterproductive to get people there. So I think sometimes people forget about it, and or at least they're not ready for success, and then it's a sad thing when that happens, where you actually end up being number one on Procon or Hacker News or whatnot, and then you get all that traffic and people go there and nothing works. They have that bad experience and bad word of mouth, and they will not come back, or even if they do come back, then you basically wasted. You weren't ready for success, which is it may happen, may not. It obviously there's a lack involved, as you mentioned. Hopefully, no war is gonna start during your launch, but it did for Flo, and that's the one thing. But those and those externalities, I think, is another thing where this one is a completely extreme and horrific example, right? The war starting, but then even the small things happen, where you launch and there's a big competitor, it's like a really big anticipated launch that happens the same day. You didn't know it happens, and then you're like, obviously it's not gonna be as big, and then you may be lucky where not there was no big ones or something like that, and then you have a bigger chance, and then you take over, your little sliver of internet, and you're good. So I think it's like, very important notes.
Yeah, and I think sometimes also you can potentially prevent this type of surprising events, surprising side events, like with you should start teasing your launch. Something I learned from this launch also was like, to start building momentum early before the launch, making sure that everyone is aware of your launch day, because we kind of worked in stealth mode at that time. While I think it could also be interesting to more to be more open, right, and to tell, okay, we are launching something that day, so you start creating some hype around your launch, and so that way there are less surprise. It's not like, oh, whoa, they are launching something like today, but it's more, okay, specify this company is launching something that specific day. Let's go back to their socials or their blog at that time to see what they have in mind, what they just shipped. And
Yeah.
this is kind of a way you could potentially prevent those surprising side events. Not just like, okay, that your competitor is having a launch week next week or in 2 weeks. That you'll probably let them do their launch and enjoy their launch at that time, and you go back to your own announcements the next few days.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point. That's a good one. Unless you want to be cheeky and go, explicitly head to head, which some people did, but it's a one way of approaching it. I actually think it's like that. That's why in that way, product hunt and hacker news are, there's like that the difference there. Where on hacker news, I sometimes see that almost there's a theme starting, and then people would start posting more. There's like a launch, and then there's like more, maybe small tools launch or blog posts around the space launch, or some stuff that is like older, but people just put it there, and there are those waves around certain themes. Whereas I think product hunt, to your point, it's like it's a proper launch in the sense that you prepare for it. It is fully upvote based, but it's promoted by the platform for you to go to that particular link and upvote. So it actually benefits it benefits you immensely having people go from your socials and upvote, go from your newsletter and upvote, for all your audience to go there. Whereas it's not as easy, or it's not, by default what Hacker News wants, right? So that's one difference out of many, probably. Maybe something we didn't mention, by the way, I just realized, was that you are a hunter, but you're also a product hunt ambassador now, right?
absolutely, yeah.
So, what does that mean? What does that mean? And sort of like, how do you find what insider information you get that you can share with us? I don't know.
So yes, since that launch, so early 2022, I kind of really enjoyed hanging out on Product Hunt. So started engaging in discussions because we know Product Hunt for the front page, right? Those ranking that you have in the home page and everyone rushing to be at the top.
Yep.
And I think that there are a couple of other elements that we tend to underrate with Product Hunt. You have the newsletter. Product Hunt it's also is big newsletter with in 2024. So nowadays I don't exactly know the number of subscribers, but back in 2024 you had 800,000 subscribers in their newsletter. So sometimes you just also want to optimize to get featured there. You have that. You have also a community, Reddit-like. We can talk about it later on. And the third element of Product Hunt is also this a powerful search engine. So So I like to compare products with Google, but Google for products. So if you're
Seriously?
looking
Well,
for
what do you mean? Never used it this way. Can you walk me through a workflow of like, what are you searching for there? Looking for reviews or yeah, like what are you searching
yeah,
for?
you can look for reviews nowadays. You also have kind of an aspect where you can look at a product and get to know about their tech stack, and just like that, you can find inspiration from those products. Like, okay, this is Superbase. They are using this and this product. Maybe me as a dev tool, I could potentially add um, um, those products, adjacent products to my stack as well. You can have that. You can also do some competitive analysis, like, okay, you know that those tools are using my competitive tool. So
Mm. So
there's a
wait,
lot of
what is it?
knowledge.
What is it called? That search? Like, is it just the search, or because I know Reddit that you mentioned before, like Reddit introduced that thing with like insights or something like that, right? Like there's that or questions, I think it's called, right? Like so it's similar to that, or wait, let me just search for something on Product Hunt. What should I search? Maybe
Yeah,
I don't
you can
know.
search your competitor, for example, and
All
just
right,
like
let's do
that,
it.
you will see
Or
people who would.
okay, so let me. I know what. So I'm searching for that doc space is very interesting. Let's search for Mintflify and see what's happening there. So I see a bunch of competitors, but I don't see many discussions. Oh, I see launches
From
and
there, you
this.
will find the product hub. Every company has a product hub where you can see the different reviews. A feature product recently launched called shoutouts. So it's like a wall of love with a ton of testimonials from existing customers, and so you also get a ton of insights from a marketing perspective, from a business perspective. You can do that every day, so it could be a potential BI tool as well.
So how does that compare to Reddit, say, for that use case? Because I found a lot of when I compare, because I kind of like, for those things I think about them, similarly, in a way where, it's sort of like review mining, right? Like, oh, I when I work with someone, I always go to, like, Reddit's Hacker News. I want to search for, those different things, what people say about it. I also look at those, trust, what is it called? Trust something radius, or, G2s and stuff. Sometimes there's something there. And Product Hunt has always been like the most positive one, where it's like, it feels like it's all sort of cheering. So then I'm Polish, so I always look for the glass half empty,
That's
and I'm
right.
like, all right, so if everything is like so positive, then I mean, I'm not gonna learn, because obviously every product has limitations. I kind of want to understand those limitations, right? Like the focus of them, et cetera, right? Like, and it felt very, very positive, that's for sure. But also, because it was overwhelmingly positive, it was harder to extract insights for me, or like treat it. I don't know. Yeah, like, treat it like a proper review place, if you will, right? If like there are almost no negative reviews. I don't know if you had that experience, or yeah.
So that's right. I think that the main difference between it's good to compare, and it makes sense to compare Reddit with Proctent. And in that, you're absolutely spot on when you say that Reddit is a lot of whiners, people like trashing about your product, and while on Proctent you have a lot of supporters, and sometimes people who are like overexcited about your product. Um, I would say that even still from that, because you have a ton of lovers, people are very excited about your product, about your competitors. You still get some insights from that, because if you don't know what are the cons for those products, you have at least all the pros. So okay, this is Minify. Everyone is mentioning how easy Minify is, how beautiful the building components are, and so on. And at least that's an insight you get, and maybe you can extract from that. You can start with the hypothesis, like, okay, maybe I don't know, Minify is closed source. Nobody mentioned that, but maybe we can start an hypothesis here. Okay, maybe there's a place for an OSS alternative to that. I don't know, I'm brainstorming out loud, but this is exactly the type but still, you have people excited about your competitor or your product. Still, you could potentially reuse that material for your competitive analysis, or you can reuse that also as a material for your marketing side if you are working at Mintflify. And I think that's also something that is very interesting when you launch on product. And you mentioned G2, you mentioned Reddit, and I think that also is the point with product. It works like those places. Expect that they have this ranking system, and people are getting crazy about that. And I think that also where people are excited about the system because you have those awards, and people won those awards at all costs.
Yeah.
While I think that's the right mindset is to maybe keep things simple. Think less about the award, but more about the long-term impact you could have for your business. And I think that's all that's the key here with product hunt is to think not just with a one-time opportunity, like, okay, this is a place where we want to launch, we want to be top one product of the day, some top one product of the week in the month, but think of it as a more long-term opportunity, just the way you would do with Reddit or with G2 or with Google.
So you mentioned that. I mean, for the listeners, I have the secret notes here, so I know some of the things we're going to talk about, and actually Flo mentions this a few times, right? Like that part, and we're going to get to that, but like maybe let's talk about it now. Is the part of launching and relaunching, right? Because it's one thing, you launch your product, right, and typically many companies that's where they end. I think like you launch your product, you do the launch of the product, right, and there's like good or bad, you're there, right? So there's the you get the backlink, you get some visibility, you got some some traffic, but you just said like it's important to like launch and relaunch, because if you were to analyze just that particular single launch, then maybe it wouldn't seem like a like a good like likely it wouldn't be a great success for you business wise. And I actually like that's one of the things I wanted to really ask you and really see how you think about that, is that sort of actual bottom line business impact of product hunt, right? Where granted, this is exactly to your point, wrongly how I used it. Like you launch it, and then if there's another product, maybe you launch it again, right? But not really using it as a sort of a platform for launch weeks where I maybe launch smaller features every couple of sprints or every sprint, or or just I just don't relaunch, right? But and I did see some, I did collaborate on some launches that actually went to number one. But then it'll get you some traffic, but maybe that some of it maybe would convert to like people trying, but not really not really further, and often that the traffic wouldn't seem that relevant, right? Whereas if compared that to some of the hacker news launches that I saw work, then it's extremely relevant traffic. Those folks are typically like it seems like it's a different sort of group or a different level of focus. But to your point, I have never actually done the thing of like launching and relaunching, with updates to features, launch weeks, etc., etc. So let's talk about that, because that would be super super interesting, and maybe you want to if you want to challenge or maybe add more depth to my comment, that'll be awesome, because I want to learn.
So yes, I think that's a key element, key takeaway from this conversation. It's about launching and relaunching. Product hunt isn't a one-time thing. It definitely pays off in the long term. And if you take the best dev tools, because this is a great place, product hunt is a great place for developers and for dev tools. If you take the most loved products on Product Hunt. You have Vercel, you have Superbase, you have Mintflify. Those are dev tools, and they are among the most loved products on the platform. So you have makers, and so when you mention makers, you have like founders, you have the developers, you also have the designers and the marketers. So it's quite general, but you do have developers for sure. You have a ton of indie makers there. So if you're a dev tool like targeting especially this type of audience, it makes so much sense. Of course, if you're targeting enterprise, maybe you should focus on G2 instead of the product. And maybe if you're targeting mid-market companies, product might not be the best place for this. However, as you mentioned, there is this SEO thing with Product. So basically, you have your own page, but the moment you create a landing page to focus on a very specific feature, you should probably launch it on Product. Again, the same mindset, have a strong backlink, because let's face it, Product has a domain rating of 90. It's higher than I can use. It's almost like TechCrunch, and just like that, it's a free, strong backlink that requires no extra effort. Just make the submission to that.
Yeah,
that's
that's true. Like that's a clear, benefit. But on the on that side of like driving the. Yeah, but it's like when I say business, what I mean is adoption of the product, right? Like because then we assume that we're going to convert that adoption to dollars, and it could be paid day one or not. Most of the dev tools will not be paid day one, right? Like most of the time we just have the free tier. So when I say business impact, what I mean is adoption, right? And actual people actually giving it a try versus just maybe taking a look, saying this looks awesome, because they want to be supportive, because they are those indie makers, whether on the weekend or throughout the week, because there are so many folks building, which is super exciting and amazing as well. And there's going to be more of it now with all the vibe coding and things like that. But anyhow, getting back, so like relaunching gets us backlinks. Okay, that's cool. But like on the side of could you speak maybe more to the impact of this relaunching versus like the single launch, and some stuff maybe that you saw with companies that you worked with when it comes to the relaunching impact, and how did that play out?
Absolutely. And I will go back to the conversation we had early on, when we mentioned that you launch, people will discover your product, a developer will discover your product, and you want a fantastic developer experience when they go visit your website. Expect that Product is a discovery tool. So you will discover a new product this way, but as a developer, you might not have that problem right now. And that's also the important part of relaunching, is to stay top of mind. So you, as a developer, if you stumble upon this exact same problem, the exact same tool a couple of months later on, you'll be like, oh, I remember them. I discovered them like a few months back. Now I'm facing that exact problem, and I want to tackle them right now. And that's probably the main difference also with Hack and Use. When you hang out on Hack and Use, you talk about problems, and you brainstorm best practices to challenge those problems and to solve those problems. I think that you go on Product Hunt to more discover new things, discover new products. And so you have a different mindset. You might have a better adoption on Hack and Use because you are in that mindset of, okay, me as a developer, I have a problem. I'm discussing that with the community. Oh, okay, I'm jump into this to solve that problem. On Product Hunt is a little more different. You go there to discover new products, new cool products, but you might not need them right now, but you may need them in the next couple of months. relaunching is a way to stay top of mind. That's also you may have an impact, but in the long term, if you just launch once there and never do it again, well, there's a high chance that people will move on. And so
so two follow-up questions. So one is, I love that framing of like, so maybe it's it's a comment more than a question, but like that where Hacker News, it does, like there's obviously show Hacker News and people are discovering products through that, right? But all those things, it is more curiosity and it is more problem driven than product discovery driven, right? And when you're a product hunt, like by design, as you say, like the expectation is that you're going to discover products, whereas it's not the same on Hacker News, where it could be helpful, and if you help through that, that's great, but it's a different mindset. I really like that. And then staying top of mind. So I'm thinking, if staying top of mind is the key, right? So wouldn't the better strategy be to maybe launch once and then run ads, use the product hunt ads to do that if you can afford it? And I mean, and if you think about it takes a long time, a lot of work, right? And a lot of organization to do the product hunt launch or relaunch, right? So then comparing that to just running, maybe, it doesn't, for me, it always seems like a lot of some of it you do anyway, like, so if you're launching, if you're in the launch, sort of you do a lot of launches, then maybe this is just just repackaging then. So I don't know, but could you comment on that?
So you've highlighted a couple of different opportunities to stay top of mind. You can run ads, and this works. Fun fact is that running an ad campaign on product hunt is much cost effective than running an ad on Twitter or on LinkedIn, which are a lot more expensive. So that's one thing.
Could you share ballparks on this? Maybe, I don't know. Like I remember last time I checked, I think it was like, maybe I'm wrong, but I remember something like it was 5K minimum, maybe, or something like that. But I don't remember if it was like I think it was like a monthly.
Absolutely, yeah, a 1 month campaign, and so potentially you hit 3 million unique visitors. So that's a ton of impressions. I don't know the exact numbers, but remember I could share insights also from the postdoc team. You have a lot of literature on that nowadays. So you have that. I would say that the cons with an ad campaign is that it has a short lifespan. If you launch, so if you don't run a ad campaign but launch per se, again, you have that long-term impact because of SEO, and so that could be a lot more long-term impact with that proper launch. And as you mentioned, some people overthink it too much, and I think that's the main issue with product hunt. You have this ranking system. People are like obsessed with that, and will rally for upvotes, will ask all their network for upvotes and so on, and they push their brand so hard that ultimately he will hurt their brand, and that's the key thing.
How so? Can you explain that?
Like you launch and you share in as many places as possible. Okay, we are live nowadays. Please give us an upvote. And honestly, that doesn't work in the long term, especially in the dev space. That's my guess.
So how is it different than that part from? And not saying if I agree or disagree. Definitely, like the fatigue is a real thing with ads and otherwise. But I wonder. Because now super popular technique, super, and super valuable to people, as I know, is the launch weeks, right? Like, and you're a proponent of that too, right? Of doing launch weeks. For those who don't know, every few, some do 90 days, some do slightly different, but like every big chunk of time, a week where you only promote and launch features, maybe it's content as well. Depends. Different companies do it differently, but you launch different valuable things every sprint, so to speak, or every, maybe it's actually internally a few sprints, but it's maybe every 90 days you do that. And I wonder like how, because to me it would seem that it's like, and those things you try to make them as visible as possible, obviously, right? Every launch week, you try to make this big. So wouldn't it be the same with like Product Hunt basically being a product launch week, sort of thing almost?
I like to do, honestly, I like to create kind of a compound effect. If you're running a launch week, I highly recommend picking one day during your launch to, in addition to your announcement, to your feature announcement, make it also a launch on product hunt. This is something that I did very recently. We had that launch week, so from Monday to Friday, 5 different announcements, and we had that one launch on product hunt on Tuesday, and I think it really helped in terms of compound effect, trying to benefit from the hype you create around this launch week, benefit from it to make sure people would go and celebrate this launch week on product hunt. Expect that on product hunt it lasts one day, and so yeah. My advice, if you're running a launch week, is to have a launch on product hunt during that week to make it like a joyful moment, to really celebrate these different wins.
So question then, okay, so let's say, so if we're running this, right, like every launch week, and you said before that we don't want to like overburn it, like over promote it, right? So what are the things that you don't do then? Like, in the situation, like you mentioned, in the classic launch, maybe you're gonna just, basically gonna ask everyone, including your grandma, to upvote, just hoping for support from everywhere, because those upvotes count. And, I'm not even talking about, some folks going really dark zone and buying the upvotes, which, but anyway, yeah, definitely not. No, but like but definitely like pushing, trying to get, everyone, your investors, everyone, like, you try to push everyone to upvote. What do you don't do?
Two things to avoid. One is to, or maybe a good practice is to just don't create more assets. Just reuse the existing assets that you've worked for your launch week. So during your launch week, there's a high chance that you worked on the story, you worked on the messaging, the positioning of your new features, and also some visuals and so on. Just reuse that. Keep it simple when you launch on product content. Just reuse those assets and make it a good fit for product content. That's one thing too. So don't create something new. Just reuse the existing assets that you worked on for your launch week. And the second thing is to try to promote and ask for people to vote for your launch in as many places as possible. Just really focus on your core existing channels. Just focus on that, and don't try to direct message as many people as possible, because in the end, you may hurt your brand, and there's a high chance that people would be like, "Oh, your company, I remember them. You asked for those like a couple of months ago. Come on, guys, that's not how you build a trustworthy relationship. I don't want you to spam my mailbox with you asking me for votes and so on. No, make this. If you're running a launch week in that specific context, make this product and launch kind of a small part of it. It'd be like, okay, today is about this feature. We really focus the messaging and the story on that specific feature that we're launching today. Oh, and by the way, we are celebrating this launch on Product Hunt as well, and join the fun if you feel so, and if not, that's okay. Because ultimately, what's the objective with this launch on Product Hunt? So we talked about SEO. as a key as one long-term objective and one-term impact with launching on product hunt. What also is interesting is trying to be with the objective to be in the top 10. You don't necessarily want to have an award. That's not the point of product hunt. It's to be at least one, to be in that top 10. Why? Is because when you're in the top 10, you're featured on their newsletter with 800,000 subscribers. So that's one thing. And the second one is you want to tell a compelling story, because speaking of newsletters, something that people might not know is that their product hunt also has a weekly dev-focused newsletter highlighting the best stories in the dev tool space and where you might want to be featured as well. So this is something that we managed to do with another company. We launched. We were not in the top 5, so no award, but we ranked number 7. And we were featured in both newsletters. And this had the highest impact in terms of visits, signups, and revenue. Is to have this kind of, we managed to keep the momentum going with this featuring. And I think that's something that people underestimate a lot. We're so focused with this ranking system, with being in the top 5 to have an award. We completely forget that this is not the end point. The end point is to, because it works in the long term, the end point is to keep things simple, have fun launching, and because it pays off in the long term. So you don't.
So basically, treat it like a normal. Like what you're saying is treat it like a normal channel, almost like like you would treat LinkedIn or Twitter or anything else.
Absolutely,
where you keep posting content there. Just the content is launches, but there's other stuff we're going to talk about, discussions. There's ads there too, but strictly for organic stuff that you would be posting. The launches that's the main subject. So
exactly, just like I can use X, LinkedIn, Reddit. It's all about consistency, right? It's all about posting regularly. Take I can use. You may submit a story, and this story might not pop up that day, but if you submit the exact same story a few weeks later, because there's another trend.
Especially when you change the title to be understated. I shared it in the newsletter, I think my newsletter. It was funny because there's that story of a guy basically sharing how he got his research papers accepted, right, by major conferences, and one of the titles, I think he tried 3 different titles. So one title was something like, get accepted every time or something like that, right? That didn't work. Then the second one he tried was like how to get your paper accepted, and with like a camel case, big, large letter. That didn't fly. It got some up like that many. And then he tried, or somebody else, I don't know if it was him, but the same article, right? But like something like getting your paper accepted. And all lower, like it's the only the G was uppercase, everything else was lowercase, and that got 300 upvotes or something. So I think it's sometimes that part too, but luck plays a huge part, 100%. Okay, but you're saying treat it as a normal channel. So maybe closing the loop on one thing that you mentioned was that it's like who is the main focus within that channel, right? Because different channels would have different people. I'd say that actually, if you're doing like heavy infra databases, very backend stuff, very infra stuff, very platform stuff, those things typically work better on Hacker News, at least from my experience, because you will have some overlap because there are people who are maybe they're a platform person by day, but they're tinkering by night and weekends, and then they will be there. So that could happen. But like generally, those folks would be in particular subreddits and Hacker News, so they wouldn't really be there on product hunt. At least my experience, again, challenge me anytime. But those builders, right? Like especially now, I think that gets bigger and bigger. So many more, builders, vibe coders, and more people who are excited to build the barriers of entry, they you know they are smaller now for sure than they were before with all those different amazing tools. So I think there's that. Yeah, like if you're building something for builders, then that would definitely feel like a great place, like for indie hackers, for builders. I don't know if you could maybe mention and share more thoughts on who is the ideal audience here, and yeah.
So yeah, just to follow up with your example, the it might not be for you, for your big infra database tool. It might not be the best place to spend a ton of time and trying to break it. But still, you can still potentially launch, have your strong backlink, and move on,
Yeah.
and really focus on something else. And you can do it. And the point is to do it repeatedly for every new landing page that you might come up with as a marketer. Then, if you really want to crack this community, this place, I think that in terms of audience, you have, so you mentioned, we talked about it, you have a ton of indie makers, and those guys are mostly active during the weekends. You have a ton of developers from early to mid-sized companies that might hang out during the weekends if they are working on a side project or side hustle, and they may want to explore a new technology, a new framework, or a new library. And it could potentially be interesting to also launch during the weekend if you're a dev tool, trying to target that specific audience. And I would say, yeah, that you obviously have a ton of founders, people that are starting a new company. Those people that may need a database, that may need a not provider, and those tools that are required to run a SaaS tool,
A business, yeah.
a business, and there it makes so much sense to be there. I mentioned the most loved products on Product Hunt. You have Vercel, you have Superbase, Mintflify, all those products that
all of them, they give magic.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah, they come super early in your journey building a SaaS product. You need a database. You need your CDN. You need docs.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Like those things that are like solutions to big hairy pains within big mature enterprises, and then on their stacks. Like this is like a different group, right? Like here we talking about a group where we have the like I want to set up a business. So what I need auth, I need database, I need a website, I need different things for docs, right? I like that. So that makes a ton of sense. And I think one thing that I want to mention, and something that has always swayed me towards, hey, maybe it doesn't make sense to put as much effort into launching, and then maybe actually doesn't make sense to launch if we're not putting a lot of effort, right, on Product Hunt, is that part that you mentioned that, well, if you do try to get to the first place and you do want to push all of that, that's a lot of effort, that's a lot of organization, that's a lot of stuff, but it's not actually what moves the needle. Right, what moves the needle is have it as a channel, as one of the channels, right, where you keep launching and relaunching as you're building, connecting it to all the other places where you already are, and then it's like not that much more work than posting on LinkedIn. Like it is a bit more, I guess, but like also when you think about a good LinkedIn post or a good or a good Twitter post, like 11 Labs said that the growth person, they had that episode talking about launches, right? I think it was on 20VC, and then talking with Jack Bridger on scaling dev tools. Luke Harris, I think. Hopefully, I'm not butchering his name. Anyway, it was a great episode on launches.
But like the community, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Didn't see him. Good to know. Yeah. Yes, he talked about that, right? About launching and about how they like to always have the videos there and animated videos, and how those posts they typically look, etc. And when you think about it, those things, like if you already have that, then Product Hunt would pretty much reuse the same components, right? And
Absolutely.
and so in that sense, maybe just like a good hygiene, if anything, even if you're doing infra. Although I'd still argue that, I haven't seen anyone doing like the heavy infra being super successful. Have you? Like the sort of like a database being launched on Hacker News and succeeding or something like that. Observability tools. I don't know.
You mentioned the example of 11 Labs, and I find it extremely interesting because you mentioned the importance of launching new stuff like regularly. We have to know that on Product Hunt, so it started like 10 years ago with just a bunch of nerds sharing interesting stuff and products they stumbled upon on their daily lives. And sometimes it just makes sense not to spend too much effort on this, but something that you can potentially optimize. And 11 Labs do it extremely well because actually they are launching stuff on Product Hunt every single week. Mm-hmm. Every single week you'll see a new launch from 11 Labs. Expect that it's not run by the guys at 11 Labs. It's run by community members. So basically hunters, people who will take the existing assets, and I do it personally, like regularly. I stumbled upon a cool product that is launching something new on LinkedIn or X, and I will extract the assets and submit it in Product Hunt. This is something that can be done as well. So making sure that you optimize your announcement and you just let the community do its stuff.
So just to reiterate what you're saying. So what you're saying is like, if I post in that way on Twitter or LinkedIn, or I have that launch blog post that already has the good story, already has the video, already has all that stuff, then hunters will take it and post it. Yeah. And you see that actually happening for 11 Labs a lot. Something
I did very recently with PostAug. When they announced their desk AUG. So their
that's so cool. That was such a fun thing to do.
That was their printable device, and so Joe posted it in the community, and I was like, oh, this is totally something that we could post on Product Hunt. I just took the existing assets, made a very quick submission on Product Hunt, and just like that, we didn't even mention it on socials and so on, and it ended up number 4 product of the day, just because that was a cool product, very different from what you can see, and
that's true.
And no extra effort from the PostAug team, but still a strong backlink, probably some unique visitors from PostAug from Product on that day, and featuring in their different newsletters. So you also have this option, right? You also have this option to, in the mindset of keeping things simple, you might have it in mind, be like, okay, there's a high chance that you have someone that enjoying out on Product Hunt that might be willing to do the end for us. And just like that, we'll work on some assets. We'll have the open graph image and we have the copy very ready. We won't spend much time on Product Hunt, but we'll make sure that we optimize it so someone from the community will create it for us. So that's basically that's UGC, right? And that's user generated content, and just like that, you can add things that
it's also good journalism, like in a way where when you think about it. When there's a great book, by the way, Trust Me, I'm Lying. I don't know if you know that. Trust Me, I'm Lying. That's it. I love that book. It's super interesting. I like those stories, even if they're like, especially the villain stories are interesting because you get to see stuff that you don't do, hopefully. But what he talked about there was, basically getting those different, B2C mostly for him, right? But those stories basically making their way up from smaller publications, and then building trust within smaller ones, and going higher and going higher and going higher and getting picked up by more important outlets, just because you thought about that next layer. So you thought about what those other outlets would pick up. Where do they get their information? What sort of assets that they put in there, right? And I think there's a lot of that work now with AI stuff and AI search, where you try to, there are tools for that as well, for like looking what parts of the page or what assets were used to generate this description of my product or this comparison, and then you figure out, so those are the assets. So so this is basically where you need to be to feed it. These are the subreddits, these are the places, right? But like, I think it's sort of that thinking of the next layer, right? Like how to be helpful to the next person that whose job or whose focus is to share stuff with the community. If you make it easier for them with a great video that you want to show, with a description of the product that is like so clear and obviously helpful, I'm going to share it. If it's just, if it's something that says, 10x in revenue, I mean, probably I'm not going to share it, because like I'm going to have to do a lot of work to understand why and what is it actually doing, and to share it with my builders, my founders, to folks on who are on Product Hunt. Like you want to share something that you understand is valuable. You want to keep your authority, your personal brand in good shape, right? So you don't want to spam folks, of course, and so yeah. So I think that sort of thinking who's gonna pick it up, and are you making it easier for people for that word of mouth to happen, for that for those loops of sharing, or not? If you're making it easier, then things could happen.
Yeah.
If you make it hard, then they will not happen. And then obviously there's no guarantee either way. But if you make it more likely, because that, hey, journalists at New York Times, they basically read local New York newspapers just to make sure that maybe there is like a story to be picked up. And this month they had 5 dog stories of, I don't know, let's say it was that, because those are the examples. Then you can, like you understand what is being talked about and how to get picked up, like what's more likely. Example here would be like, maybe there's some categories of tools, right, or something like that, where people are excited about right now, and if you're in there, then
absolutely, yeah. I think that's exactly that. I mean, you can potentially have this strategy to just refocus on your existing channels, your blog, your social accounts, and make sure you publish the required material for another community member to just make the submission and do the work for you on product. And that could also work. And we talked about 11 Labs; they're doing it like extremely well, especially also because there's all this AI stuff is crazy right now. People are crazy about that. So yeah, it works.
But you mentioned 11 Labs, you mentioned Vercel, Superbase. I did see that you recently mentioned Upright, having a great launch on Product Hunt in one of those discussions that we're going to talk about a bit later. But I wonder, what are some other great examples, companies that you really like to go for inspiration of how they do it, when it comes to those launches on Product Hunt or otherwise, because I think, to your point, if you're doing great launch weeks, then likely you would be doing good on Product Hunt as well if you did that. But where do you look for inspiration for launches, relaunches?
So, we compare a lot I can use in Product Hunt, and in that sense, compared to I can use Product Hunt is a surprisingly visual medium. So my take is that if you want to do a proper and really nail your launch on Product Hunt, you also want to make sure that the visual assets are stunning and competing. And so when I look for inspiration with great product and launch, I will look at products that value quality software, that value quality assets. So we mentioned Superbase, and they spend a ton of time. They spend some time to really polish the pixels. I really enjoy also companies like Rinsend, Mintflify, Raycast. Those are the teams that have great product designers and do a great job with their visuals when they launch. At least they care a lot about the pixels. So those are, from my perspective, some really inspiring products.
And the best launches, like you mentioned Upright in that recent discussion. I wonder what else is on your list of like the greatest ones of all time. I know I have for Hacker News. I have this one, like I bored everyone with it already, probably like the Fly.io, Fly.io launch,
Sure.
which I thought was like just it's a beauty. The copy there is just beautiful. I don't know, like I love that launch. But anyway, I wonder if there are things
So
here.
yeah, this Upright example is a good one because they had that very clickbait tagline, the open source Vercel alternative. I think that they were spot on with that because Vercel is one of the most loved product on Product Hunt, and so being the OSS alternative, it's just spot on. This plus some very stunning visuals was a good example. So they really nailed that and ranked number one product of the day. And what was also really interesting is that they kept the momentum going, running an ad campaign there. So they were stayed top of mind. And just like that, they reached number one. They were actually number 4 product of the month and number 1 dev tool of the month. So yeah, from my perspective, this is a kind of the award you can brag about. Similarly, I really enjoyed when Superbase went GA. So that was April 2024, and they had a stellar launch on Product Hunt. What was interesting here is that they ran a kind of a battle royale with the call.com team. So basically, a few weeks before the launch, they started trashing each other on socials. Like, okay, we are going on Product Hunt and we'll just beat you guys. And just like that, they started creating some hype around the launch. And ultimately, during that launch day, people were so excited. They massively voted both products. So that was a hit for both.
That's such a good idea. Yeah,
That was
conflict
such
is
a
always
good
such a
thing.
good
Yeah.
idea.
And,
Like a healthy conflict.
this plus also it significantly increased their reach, because you mixed both audiences. So Superbase followers plus call.com followers. So that was a fantastic experience and fantastic launch example from my perspective. So during trying to have this, creating this hype and FOMO effect, or where I'm a Superbase fan. I want to support them in that battle with Call.com, so I don't want to
Wait,
miss.
what was that? Was that second one? Collab?
Call.com.
Call.com.
The
With a
the
COL or is it?
CAL? Yes, the open source
yeah.
Canonly alternative. And they did something fantastic there, and I had the opportunity to do something similar, inspired by that, and also, honestly, that was fantastic because we reached out to 2 more dev tools, and we did that on socials. We started raising momentum, saying, okay, we are doing this battle. It will be this day. Make sure to subscribe and join the force. We'll just crush them. And so this is we trashed each other on socials. And on the other end, we also had a shared Slack channel, and we were supporting each other on that Slack channel. That was a fantastic experience, and especially the launch day. We were like, "Okay, guys, how are you? How's your launch? Post your social post so we can we can increase the engagement rate." And visibility, and just like that, outsiders would think that we were in competition, while we were actually promoting each other, and that has a significant impact in terms of social engagement. Remember, we kind of multiplied by 15 the number of the reach during that day. So fantastic experience.
Nice. Cheeky. I like that.
Yeah, I
That's a
like
good
this.
one.
It was a fantastic co-marketing experience, and, and a lot of fun. And that's the whole point, I think, with this product launch, is to have a lot of fun, because you want to launch over and over again. And so if you don't enjoy doing this, well, maybe you have to I don't know, do something else.
Yeah. No. That's cool. I like that. So maybe I'm on it because I'm let's say I'm sold, right? And let's say let's add Product Hunt as a channel that we want to properly explore, with launching, with relaunching, with ads, with being involved in discussions. And I wonder, when you start working with folks, and that's the plan, or folks ask you for advice. What's your process here? How do you think about adding those things over time, so that it's not overwhelming, that we do everything? And obviously that's hard. What is sort of like the 80-20, of what needs to be done there to start seeing results, and then start growing from this? And yeah, how do you like working on those things?
That's a very good question. I think that when you start thinking about a launch, very generic, so not just Procton, but I think that the number one thing to do is to define your objective, right? If your key objective is to get new users, like active users, product might not be the right fit. But if you are thinking about, okay, I want to work on the top of the funnel, I want to grow my awareness, or I want to have this strong backlinking, make sure that it hits it checks all the boxes, and get featured in the different newsletters. Then the next step is to start working very simply on the required inputs. So when you're about to launch on Product Hunt, you have the name of your product or feature. That's obvious. But most importantly, you'll also have the tagline, which is key, and some visual assets. And
so maybe Phil, before we go into those assets, right? Like, I wonder, because you mentioned the objective, right? And that the right objective, just to be loud and clear, from your perspective, right? It's the top of funnel awareness that we're going to get from this, right? So how do you like to measure this? Is it traffic, brand mention spikes in SEO during the launch days, or is it just the overall traffic from Product Hunt, and sort of like, what was the proxy for you to see that you're doing well? And obviously later you want to see that converting over a few sales cycles to pipeline, but yeah, let's say our focus right now is top of funnel awareness, and yeah, how do you look at that?
So three core metrics from my perspective. The number one is the traffic. So the number of daily users you'll have on launch day, plus the next days later on, considering you get featured in their different newsletters. So this should last for like roughly a week. You have traffic, and also the number of new followers you might have on your socials. So X, LinkedIn, you definitely want to have them into account, because there's a high chance that you'll promote your launch in those places. And well, yes, the third one, you can take into account the number of new signups. Also, I wouldn't say that it's the main objective when you launch on Product Hunt. And I would add a fourth metric. If you are an open source project, is to also track, obviously, the number of GitHub stars, because it's an easy call to action. Like you're launching on Product Hunt, you can say, hey, view source code on GitHub and leave us a star. that's an easy, quick call to action.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like on those GitHub stars, just to add, I think there is it always helps to have more, but but you definitely want to have above certain number, and that number may be 1,000, maybe 3,000, especially if you're like open source and you're under 1,000, nobody's going to treat you very seriously. If you're not open source, then it's a different story. But like if you are, then you want to get that number to something that is respectable, that that I as a developer can trust. Like think, hey, okay, so this is at least it takes the sort of like the first box of this is used by someone at least, or at least viewed by some devs, right? So cool. All right, so we have those objectives, right? So we the focus, if you're looking to grow pipeline through Product Hunt, this is not the channel. I mean, it hopefully will move the pipeline over time, but if you want to move it now, then do some other stuff. But let's say we want to grow that discovery and prepare people for later, and get more people to talk about you, etc., to grow the future pipe. We focus on that brand awareness. We have those metrics that you mentioned: traffic to the site, signups. We have the GitHub stars if you're open source. Wait, the fourth one, I forgot.
The number of followers you can have on socials. I would even say a fifth one is obviously your rank on Brightson, right? You want to be in the top 10. That's the minimum. So you get featured in the newsletter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we have that, and then we go ahead and want to launch. And then you mentioned that we should look at just go over the things that Product Hunt wants you to do, wants you to create, right? And there are those different assets that need to be prepared. You mentioned before that Product Hunt is very visual, so you really want to nail those things to be visually appealing, and then the header, or the headline copy has to be good. What does a good headline copy mean to you? I saw the open source Vercel alternative. I love this sort of copy is always good when you are an open source incumbent alternative. I think it's always good. It's actually really good on Hacker News too, but because it anchors. It anchors you on something. Somebody knows who Vercel is, so it's easier to understand. You don't have to use so many words, because Vercel basically encapsulates so many words that you would use to describe your platform. So that's a great idea. What are some other things from your perspective when it comes to that headline copy would work for you? What are some rules?
Yeah, so it's an extremely interesting question for two main reasons. One is because the tagline is probably, from my perspective, the most important thing when you launch on Product Hunt. That's the very first thing you will see when you go on the front page. You see the name of the product, the thumbnail, and the tagline. And the tagline, there's a high chance that this is what will make people click that vote button. So this is why it's extremely important to really nail that tagline. And the second element is that it's also really important to nail that in the context of a dev tool, because in dev tools we tend to be like super technical in the way we introduce our product, because we think, okay, we are targeting a technical audience. They are some knowledgeable people, so they know what we'll talk about if we use all those fancy words and acronym, and this is not the type of copy that you can potentially reuse on Product Hunt, because you will have developers, you will hit a technical audience, but not just that audience. You will also have some non-technical audience, and you want your tagline to resonate to that people as well. So in order to have their votes,
to have a chance, right, to be there.
Absolutely, yes. So you have to find the right balance, and on the other end, you don't want to be too generic, because if you're too generic, your technical audience won't care about about that, won't care about your product because you're too generic, because it's marketing fluff and so on. And so you have to find the right balance between being technical enough to be interesting to and appealing to your the technical audience, but also generic enough to address a more generic audience. And so that's why, if we take the example of Upright, was this open source Vercel alternative, it checks all the boxes. They're very spot on because, Vercel is that now big company. So if you're technical or not technical, there's a high chance that
if you're a builder, you'll know what Vercel is. Yeah, like if you're on Product Hunt, you probably know. Let's be honest.
So that's one thing, and if then open source alternative, it resonates even if you're not technical. Okay, something that is open source, it sounds cool. Okay, I might hit that button just because it's open source something, and so it checks all the boxes because it finds the right balance between the level of technicity and the generic side. Something I'm really proud of. Also, I like to give that example during when we launched Specify. When I joined their team and to start working on that product launch, the headline in the website was that Specify was the design data platform. So like Segment, but for all your design assets and data points. And we considered that headline on Product Hunt, and from my perspective, that was too.
Yeah, I don't know what it
means.
We
don't know what it means, right? Yeah. So we tricked that, and ultimately the tagline was sync your Figma files to GitHub repos in minutes. And just like that, mentioning Figma, GitHub, you know what those tools are. If you're in the tech industry, no matter if you're a marketer or an engineer or so on, you know what they are. And just to say, okay, it syncs those two tools. Okay, that sounds interesting, and so people will upload. That was our hypothesis. But just like that, you made your tagline to make sure that it resonates to a broader audience, but you're specific enough to also make it appealing and to make it relatable to a technical audience. So that's why the tagline is so important, and that's why, especially for dev tools in our space, it also is so important and difficult to find the right balance between being technique and also generic.
Cool. No, it's a good point, and it's hard, and I think those examples were good. So one was like anchoring on something, an alternative. The second one was the basically jobs to be done with tools mentioned that make it specific. So I like that. I also say, like, so how big of an impact do you think that visual has, like that small visual? Because some people like make it like really, jumpy or something, like the logo, like that little token, little signet, I think it's called. I don't know. That shows up on the list. I mean, I find this sometimes when done well. I didn't do it well myself, but like sometimes when it was done well, I saw it can be very appealing, or at least attention grabbing, and then obviously your headline, your tagline has to explain it. But I saw that work for some people, doing it animated GIF logo instead of just a static logo. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that little trick there.
Yeah, I don't think it makes a significant impact. I would prefer you spend more time on the image gallery on those visual assets instead of the thumbnail, because what's interesting, and my take is that you have to consider also Product Hunt a way to create assets and sustainable assets. So basically to use them, to use Product Hunt as an excuse to create assets for something else. your socials, for if you want to publish in other directories, if you want to run a PR campaign, you might reuse those inputs, so the taglines, the image gallery, and so on, to well, keep momentum going with your launch and create kind of a compound effect with your launch. And so that's also why I find this work on those assets so important. And so I think that's something a lot of people tend to underrate. Again, is they will just pick one feature, and okay, we pick one feature, we explain it in one image, and that's it. While I think that the right approach is to make your story resonate with the images. So you will convert your story visually, and this image gallery should reflect your story. And how does it start? Your story. There's an intro, a development, and a conclusion. So the intro would be the first image. It's like the open graph image that will be reused on socials. So you absolutely want to nail it. Then you will make the development with all the different features you want to highlight during this launch day. But you also need a conclusion to your story, visual story. And the conclusion is, for example, you can add a social proof with testimonials, with all your advantage metrics, and but also had a call to action at the end of that visual story. That's something that I find people underestimate a lot. It's telling the story visually with an intro, a development, and a conclusion, and making sure that at the end of the story there's a call to action. I think that's the best product launch that I found on Product Hunt. Also managed to create that story visually in that IDC framework.
I see. But for the call to action, do you? You mentioned testimonials, but it's sort of, I think about this as a part of this pre call to action, because you want to build that trust, add additional layers of trust, and then you have the call to action. For a call to action, typically a Product Hunt, the call to action that is there is the go to website. So you mean
website could be a CLI command, or we're in the DevTools space, so you can have all the different options.
Yeah, so that will go into that visual, And then the videos, right? Like people do put in the videos. Like there's the visuals they put, but also it seems that the video, I don't know, at least recently it became, something that every founder does. It seems, like the video, although they get some bad press, I guess, on I saw on LinkedIn some of them like being like, oh, it's a classic Product Hunt video, but I don't know, so what's your what's your
my
thinking around
perspective? It
this?
doesn't have a significant impact on your launch.
So you'd much rather have good visuals than a
ton of I can name a ton of examples, a counter examples of companies that successfully launched, being in the top 5 with no video or clips or so on. Again, it's really we have to don't overthink product and too much. We have to really keep it simple. So if you have a product walkthrough, if you record a demo of your product, and
add it, but it's not. Don't sweat it.
Don't make it specifically for product hunt. It doesn't worth the effort.
I really like that point. That's sort of like a change for me and thinking from this discussion, is the part where I could never really justify putting this much effort into doing product launches when there's that, there are other launches where you already are. There's Hacker News that I think it's like, if you try and succeed, this could be, this could have like a heavy day one effect. But I really downplayed, also for Hacker News, by the way, I really downplayed that idea of like relaunching, like basically keeping it as a channel for relaunching stuff all the time. And then when you do that, it has impact on the strategy, as you mentioned. Like you, don't overthink it. Make it simple, but keep being there. Keep being present. Maybe put some, put a few bucks in there to, to make it top of mind. To pay for top of mind delivery, if you will. Not a bad idea either. If you do it for long enough, you're gonna see the impact, because this is a big channel for specific types of people for sure. But it doesn't have to be super complicated with like recording a founder video every time and like doing, reaching out to everyone and their dog to just like get an upvote, and that's not the way to keep it sustainable. And I agree with you, but I didn't think that, hey, you could actually just use it as a relaunching, constant relaunch platform. So I do have to revisit that for sure.
And if you have this, if you take this mindset, then you can, some people, some marketers, we would target, for example, we would explore channels like YouTube, like X or LinkedIn with influencers. We will target those influencers in those key channels to trying to raise awareness around your dev tool. And I think that honestly you can potentially do the same on product hunt. So if you find someone that has a follower base on product hunt, someone that is an influence there, you can potentially work with them the same way you would work with influencers on X, LinkedIn, YouTube. It works the same way from my perspective. So if you're not confident about you doing the launch on product hunt, but you wanted to explore it anyway, this is where you can reach out to a hunter, find someone that has some influence in your space, and
any tips for finding them, for let's say I want to go down that route, right? Like what's the easiest way? Let's say we mentioned that Mintflify before. Let's go down that route. Let's say we want to have similar product, right? Like something around the docs, let's say, launched, right? And how do I find the right person?
Yes, you can definitely DM me. No, more seriously, although I'm quite serious, but more seriously, I think that finding a hunter kind of be related to finding an influencer for your product. So you need to find someone that shares your values, and someone that could have an impact on your audience. How to find them? Well, the first thing is you can potentially see in your existing network if you have people that regularly hang out on product hunt, and see if they could help you really understand and nail that audience. So that's one thing, using your own existing network. So for example, if you are a YC combinator, you can you reach out to Gary Tan, who is doing it like regularly. If you are more of if you are more targeting SaaS companies, I remember I had a fantastic experience with Ethan Shah, who made the end for us while I was working at Specify, and those guys, by making the hunt, they could potentially help you increase your reach, and so that's one thing. And then I think that you also need to redefine also what are your expectations with the hunter. Is it just increasing your reach, or is it like a co-pilot for your launch, right? So you have some hunters who could potentially be a lot more involved in your launch. Some who might just make the submission. So again, first you define your objectives. What are your objectives with this launch? If you want to just increase your reach, then Garrethan or Eat and Shower are great examples. I think that if you want to have low efforts on this launch, but really nail it, you can potentially try to find someone that a coworker for this launch that could also work.
And I just want to say, Flo is way too modest. Definitely reach out to Flo. Like it's not not a joke. Reach out to Flo. DMs in our community. Although we do encourage people not to solicitate in DMs and talk openly. But yeah, like reach out to Flo for everything connected to Product Hunt. So yeah, community, LinkedIn, Twitter. Flo is there. Flo answers. I know. So, that definitely cannot recommend Flo enough for those things. Before we get to sort of like start, before we get to closing our conversation and sort of closing thoughts, I really, really wanted to ask you about the discussions part. Because for me, and you mentioned this at the beginning of this conversation, where, like this is something that is underappreciated. It is 100% underappreciated. I have to say, I haven't really seen the discussions until, today, because I knew we were going to talk about it. And I was like, yes. And then I see it. Whoa, there's some discussions here. And in some ways, they feel sort of, there's something Reddity about it. There's something, it's different, but like, there's something like that. I know there is daily dev folks also in our community who are doing there's also discussions happening there. There's obviously other places, but like Product Hunt, I didn't appreciate it for that, and it seems that there's some action going on in those discussions. Can you talk a bit about that, and about if I was to promote my dev tool, what would be the good way of interacting with the community so that it is helpful for everyone and helps me grow?
So yeah, I love talking about product forums. This is so an underrated feature. It's something that the product and team launched early this year, so probably last January, and it's definitely like a Reddit-like community place. So people will go to a specific product forum. So it's product.com/p/your product. So if you type p/Vercel or p/AppWrite, you will stumble upon there, and those are open product related discussions. And those are great places to like challenge your products. This is a place where you have people challenging their tech stack, telling, okay, what is the best feature flagging tool in 2025? What is the best product analytics tool in 2025? Those are the type of conversations that you have right now on Product Hunt. And as we mentioned earlier, it's Product Hunt, so people can't be too harsh, because if they do, you won't support their launch. So it's very it's a very nice and supportive community, but you still get some insights from those conversations. And so this is a channel our started exploring a few months ago, and because this is all new, what's interesting is that this is there's a lot of improvements by the product and team. There are a lot committed to make it grow, and making sure that you, as a founder or marketer, you find ways to fully leverage that. So this is extremely interesting from a marketing perspective and from a distribution market perspective. So personally, I use them for three main users and use cases. The first one is to first is to start building some momentum before an actual launch. So I make an announcement there and be like, okay, we are launching XYZ, making sure to bookmark your mark your calendar with that. So that's exactly the type of things that you can do there. The second one is to, post-launch, keep the conversation going by sharing some product updates and improvements, the type of new releases that, don't have the level of importance that or the level of efforts you would put in a proper product launch, but still, if you have you probably have
like
your
a change log,
you probably have your change log or release note. You can cross post it on Product Hunt, and just like that, it would help also with SEO. And the third one are more open discussions, open conversations. Like if you want to talk, infrastructure, if you want to talk telemetry more openly, if you want to talk trunk-based management and so on, or trunk-based development and so on, you define it. You can have open conversations there, and you will have people who are willing to engage in a very thoughtful way, because underlying they want your support for the launch day, but still, this is just a way to create conversations, and it works. I had fantastic results with those experiments, and something that worked a lot was also leveraging some existing forums. For example, I mentioned the Vercel, Superbase, or Mintflify. Those are products that have they are among the most loved products. They have a ton of followers. And if you engage in their forums, there's a high chance that you might notify those followers also. So this is part of the product and algorithm. It's very interesting to, again, increase your reach, increase raise your awareness in these places, and
so what would be a good use case to go into a Vercel community and engage? Like, I presume that integrations would be a good one if you have an integration or you're considering an integration.
Exactly.
You're thinking about the stack that includes Vercel, so similar to integration.
If you think customers, you're basically tell if you are using Vercel yourself with your company, you can just tell your customer story with the community there. Something I did in the past, for example, was with the team we started experimenting with Cursor, and we just openly shared our feedback using the product as a team. And we just posted it on page/cursor, and had great results with that post, because there were a lot of followers. People were like crazy with this type of story, and just like that, we had fantastic. It popped up, and so that's the type of cross forums post we did that worked really well.
Super. No, that's I'm thinking then anything on the side of like, you wouldn't go with the alternative stuff in there, right? Like that'll be a bit too much, like asking for, like I mean, you wouldn't say, hey, what are the good alternatives to Vercel in the Vercel form? That would be a bit much. But going in like, for this particular use case, what are you guys using? What are the problems that you see and stuff like that? Have you seen that or not necessarily?
Honestly, all those use cases are valid. I mean, if even talking about Vercel alternatives in the Vercel forum could work, because take Reddit. this is exactly the type of conversation that you can have.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
go
yeah.
in
On
your
Reddit for sure. On Reddit for sure. Yeah.
so you would have the exact same type of conversations. Expect that you won't have people um, spamming or trashing you because on Brighton there were a lot of spam on Brighton. The team worked a lot on verified accounts, on making sure that all new accounts are legit with connected accounts, with LinkedIn, with Gmail, with X, and so and so you can expect some real conversations. You will have some AI generated content, but I think that nowadays it's part of the world. It's part of the deal everywhere on the internet. Um, but there's also a high chance that you may have a conversation, insightful conversation with real people that are here to create value because Brighton, there are those forums, but there is also this launch aspect where people want your support, and so they have to be nice on the other end if they want reciprocity. So I think that's they have kind of this product, and they have this kind of unfair advantage of building a community of supporters and not a community of haters.
I see that. No. I do see. You know. Yeah, I do see use cases for that for sure. I'm just like thinking my hand is spinning, but um, so I'm wondering on that front, or generally, so we talked discussions, we talked briefly about when you would use ads, we talked about the relaunching, right? I wonder if there are any thoughts, any things that we haven't talked about that we should have when it comes to marketing on Product Hunt today. Obviously, you mentioned Product Hunt working on fixing the problem with unverified accounts. That was a problem for sure in past years. Now the discussions coming in, I'm quite sure that those discussions will at some point be picked up if they are not already in AI search engines, right? And being part of what feeds the engine there, especially with that super strong domain authority. It has to be there. I mean, I would be super surprised if it wasn't, even if not today, then in a minute. But I wonder what haven't we talked about, some thoughts that he wanted to share with people, ideas and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we went in depth in the topic. What's very important from my perspective, I would say I like to say that the most difficult part of launching on product and actually is the second launch because you will have a first launch. You might work a ton of this first launch, and you have so many expectations about this first launch. If this first launch doesn't work, you might want not to launch again, and that would be a mistake because it pays off in the long term. And on the contrary, on the other hand, if you keep it simple, you make it like in a rush, you launch it, you have fantastic results, but because you had fantastic results, you don't want to launch again because you are afraid not to have this same level of engagement, and so you might not want to launch again, and that's another mistake because again, I think Brighton is a fantastic place to launch, and it has to be. And it's about consistency. It pays off in the long term, and I think that's something that we underestimate a ton. So then, yes, as you mentioned, we talked about how to keep the momentum going post launch, and that definitely works. That definitely helps with you can run an ad campaign, you can engage in product forums, there's one quote that I really enjoy from Rory Wilding, who was the head of growth at Superbase and now the CEO. and he used to say, ship and shout as much as possible. I think that's the key. You ship new features consistently with your team, and just like that, you want to shout about it and launch it like consistently.
Build cool things and talk about them. I think that was either Guillermo Rauch or I think that Frenchman from Lemlist, Guillermo Moubesh, or I don't know. Like he also had that, that same mentality of like build cool things and talk about them. That's the way you build audience on Twitter and generally, generally how you stay relevant, So I think that's a fantastic, quote to leave folks with. Now, you talked about CTAs before, so maybe, what are your CTAs? What would you like to leave our listeners with?
So when it comes to launching on product hunt, keep it simple. And if listeners have any question, I'm always happy to brainstorm product launch ideas. They can reach out in the community. They can reach out, as you mentioned, on LinkedIn, on X. I'm more than happy always happy to help and support the first product launch.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Flo, for that awesome and long discussion. I learned a ton. I hope our listeners did too. And yeah, talk to you soon.
Yeah, keep up your great work, Jakub, and thank you so much for the featuring.
That's a wrap for this episode of Going Deeper into Dev Marketing by developer Mark Appert. If you like the show and would like to support, follow the show and drop us a review. It means a ton and helps other dev tool founders and marketers find us. For more dev marketing resources, check out markappert.dev, where you'll find tens of guides and hundreds of examples. For more visual version of this pod, go to our YouTube channel at @dev_Mark Appert. See you next time.